Hello, everyone. How are you? I want to welcome everybody here to the Assistive Technology and what it's going to look like in the next 25 years. I am Victor Calisi. I am the Commissioner of the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. And I want to thank NYU Polytech Anita for everything that she's done to help me put this together. And, Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities is doing a month-long celebration for the Americans with Disabilities Act. And we held a museum piece, the history of disability in New York City at the Brooklyn Historical Society that's running through October. We're holding a Disability Pride Parade on July 12th, which is a Sunday, so come out and march with us. We are doing a CUNY lecture series, and we're holding our ADA Awards with the mayor, annual ADA Awards. And we're doing lots of different things with cultural institutions, and we're doing stuff with the Parks Department, outdoor film festivals. And this is the first kickoff of our lecture series, and we're doing it here. I ran into Anita, and was like, Anita, can you help me, please? And I was surprised that she said yes, because she sent me a couple emails and it blew her off. But she still said yes. So Anita, thank you. So this is our first. We put together a great panel that's really going to talk about technology and people with disabilities, because we know it affects our lives every day, and it's getting better and better. And if we can start off with the panelists, start their names. I guess we'll start off with Marvin from here on in, and then Mike is going to. Mike, where are you? I'm Mike. And Mike is going to be the guy that's going to be moderating everything. So thank you everyone for being here, and please be part of our events this coming July.
I also just wanted to let you know that we're recording the session, so if you don't want to be on the videotape, keep your back facing, keep your front facing the front of the room, and we'll only see the back of your head. And it'll be posted on the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities and on the Ability Lab website sometime tomorrow.
So I don't want to correct it. Please, it's Harvard. Let's start with you.
I'm sorry, Mike.
It's perfectly okay. Hi everyone. My name is Mike Bauer. I'm my day-to-time job. I'm the Director of Marketing Communications for a grant-funded initiative at the City University of New York, and I'm delighted to be here because this is a cause that's near and dear to my heart. My younger brother is diagnosed with cerebral palsy. So an understanding of assistive technology and how it can make his life better and more enjoyable is something that I'm constantly researching. Before we kick things off, I thought it would be appropriate to share with you the quote from George H.W. Bush when he signed this legislation into effect. He compared it to tearing down the Berlin Wall. He said, "And now I sign legislation which takes a sledgehammer to another wall, one which has for too many generations separated Americans with disabilities from the freedom they could glimpse but not grasp. Once again, we rejoice as this barrier falls, proclaiming together we will not accept, we will not excuse, we will not tolerate discrimination in America." I'm thrilled to be here with you guys and to be moderating this panel. And I invite the panelists to please introduce yourselves. Marvin, let's start with you.
Hi, my name is Marvin Pinnup, and I'm the Assistant Director for our regional Assistive Technology site. It's called KetWorks. We are funded by a federal grant called TRADE, Technology-Related Assistance for Individuals with Disabilities.
Hey, my name is Colin O'Donnell. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here. I have a company called Control Group based in downtown Manhattan, and we are a user experience and technology company that's focused on public spaces and how we can bring internet-like technologies into the physical world. You might know us from a project that we recently won and are now in the process of building out. It's called Link NYC. And so Link NYC is a project really to replace all the payphones in New York City with something new. And so the something new that we propose and are at this moment developing is really going to be the largest and fastest free municipal Wi-Fi network in the world. So we're bringing gigabit speeds to thousands and thousands of locations all across the city throughout the 5 boroughs. But the project is it's being developed at no cost to the city or taxpayers. It's funded solely through advertising revenue. So it's a completely ad-free Wi-Fi network because as internet users, we don't want ads on the internet. But the payphones actually generate a great deal of revenue for the city currently, and we'll actually amplify that and move to digital advertising and provide a host of services all funded through the advertising. At every location in the city that we have a Wi-Fi structure, we also have a tablet that's free to use for the public. So it's a standard Android tablet with all kinds of apps on there and designed for people with all abilities. And we have things like cell phone charging and other amenities. So it's a fun project. It's exciting. It's gotten us a lot of attention. And actually wearing a T-shirt for our new company, we've just recently we're in the process of being acquired by Google's smart cities focused investment company called Sidewalk Labs. So
That's new.
yes.
Oh,
So Dan Doctroff and Google came together, started a new company that invests in cities and technology, and we're their first investment.
That's good to hear. Dan's a great guy.
Hi. I can get this closer. I'm short when I stand and apparently short when I sit. So my name is Holly Cullen. I'm the program manager of Assistive Technology at NYU Langone Medical Center. I help work with adults and children across all the campuses on the use of technology to help meet their physical impairments, communication impairments, and cognitive impairments, typically in the areas of computer access, home automation, and alternative and augmentative communication. I'm also the co-founder of DIY Ability. We are an accessible makerspace here in New York, thank you, where we hold educational workshops for community members, occupational therapists, physical therapists, individuals with varying needs, where we teach folks about assistive technology, how to make their own assistive technology, as well as we're also involved in the Next Hot Maker program here in New York, which is sponsored by NYC EDC for Capacita, which is an accessible game controller that we've created to hope to provide independence for console gaming for individuals with varying physical impairments.
I'm Neil Jacoby. I'm Public Affairs for AT&T in New York. Partnered with Anita and Luke here at the Ability Lab to create something called Connectability, which is a contest that just closed out last week. We sourced 63 accessible technologies from 15 countries around the world addressing different functional disabilities. This is a practice that we do a lot of at AT&T in trying to merge mobile technologies and wireless networks with practical uses in people's lives, addressing human needs and civic needs. Before we did this disability initiative this year, we've done the traffic safety with New York City DOT and brought some really interesting apps to market and continue to work on how to pilot those on city streets. Work with the MTA, creating sourcing apps to help commuters get around the system better, but also to help the MTA have more visibility and insight into the massive transit. But the purpose of all this is how we can better apply mobile technology and the enormous investment that these individuals and companies like AT&T make in mobile technologies, how to apply that to civic and human good, because we think it's underutilized, and there's a lot of practical purposes for smartphones and tablets when they're applied appropriately and very intelligently to addressing human needs, like we've done with the ability to come up with some very scalable, affordable technology that just uses the phone in your pocket. That's what we want to see more of.
I'm Todd Hudson. I'm the co-founder of a company called Tactile Navigation Tools, and I also serve as the chief technology advisor. We're a spin out from NYU Langone Center. Sorry, first let me say that I was so pleased to be invited to come here today, and I look forward to our discussion after the So I started my professional career as a scientist, and I'm not as an engineer or an inventor, but my co-founder is normally the talker, but he had to be out of the country this week, so I'm afraid you were stuck with me. So my work as a scientist was involved in mathematical modeling of human spatial orientation and movement control. And through that work, I met my co-founder, J.R. Rizzo, who was a rehab doctor at Langone. And it turns out that J.R. has a degenerative disorder where he was slowly losing vision. And so we got together and formed Tactile Navigation Tools in order to implement some of these ideas for spatial orientation and enhance mobility.
So my name is Zach Lieberman. I'm an artist and educator. I work really in the realm of, I guess you would say, media arts, using technology, typically software and sometimes hardware, to create interactive performances and installations. And I'm also a teacher. I help run a school called the School for Poetic Computation, which is looking at the intersection of poetry and code, and specifically how we can use computation, electronics, and theory to create very practical things. One of the projects that I feel most proud about is a project called the iWriter, which is a tool that a group of us developed in collaboration with a paralyzed graffiti writer who has an advanced stage ALS, and we developed a tool that translates his eye movement into graffiti, and he was basically drawing his eyes, and we were running around projecting it, doing questionable things with projectors outside. But I have a sort of an outsider interest in assistive technology, and also specifically as an educator and somebody working in the field of media arts, would love to find ways to promote and bring more artists and designers into the mix.
Impressive lineup, isn't it? So I know Zach has a presentation that he wants to do. So
I feel first. Are other people presenting too?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I felt like
No? Everybody's gonna be jealous.
So while Zach's setting up, I neglected to give you guys a rundown of how this is going to work. So each of the panelists is going to talk about their respective areas for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to grill them on the hot seat with a couple of questions that I have. And we're going to open it up to you all for some Q&A as well. So as you listen to everything they're saying and you learn about the projects that they're working on, if you have questions, have them ready, and as soon as you hear it from me, we'd love to hear from you guys as well.
I just wanted to know.
Oh. Cool. So I said before I write is collaboration, and it's a project that I helped develop with some other artists, Christine Segru and Theo Watson. The three of us collaborate on a project called Open Frameworks, which is a toolkit for artists. The code that we're writing, and we release it as open source for other artists to make projects with. And Evan Roth and James Potterly from the Graffiti Research Lab, which are looking at the intersection of graffiti and technology. And the five of us collaborated with a sixth artist named Tempt. Tempt is an old school graffiti artist from LA. And he's really well known in LA and Southern California for the kind of work that he's doing. And about 10 years ago, he fell over and was diagnosed. He fell over and was diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. So he's now completely paralyzed. He's on a ventilation machine. And this couple knew him. They invited us out to LA to come and kind of collaborate and jam with him. So we went out. We kind of came out and showed him the sort of nerdy artwork that we do. We got to know him and his family and his caregivers. And so I'll show you a little bit about this project. One of the first things that we noticed when we went out there is that he had a commercial eye tracker. So here he's saying, dude, my hardware is ghetto. But he could also very well be saying, dude, my hardware is expensive. These commercial eye tracking systems can be really quite expensive. He had to have a big fundraiser in order to pay for this one. And he can type messages with it, but it was very limited in terms of what he could do. So we took that as a starting point and really just tried to investigate. So here's just a little bit. Luke. Sorry, everyone. Sound, HDMI. Yeah, this is it's going somewhere. Yeah.
That's me.
Is there a
Sorry.
Oh.
Source.
All right. Okay, well, that's fine. You're missing just some hip hop music. That's fine. So we went so this is we went out to meet him and just get to know him, get to know his artwork, hang out with his family, his friends, and with him, and it was just a kind of amazing experience. This is his father. We're standing outside of the hospital and saying, that one of the amazing things is like his body is, he can't move his body, but his brain is like completely wide awake and full of ideas. And so it was really exciting to work with him. We tried to learn as much as we could about eye tracking. So just kind of hacking, we built a sort of small laboratory where we just took cameras. We also hacked his system. So we learned how to write software for his commercial eye tracking system. And then we took the things that we had learned and we published the kind of toolkit. So basically instructions for how to build your own eye tracking system, which we call the iWriter. It's basically kind of combination of things that you could buy on Channel Street. So sunglasses, some aluminum, cheap camera, some infrared lights, and then some kind of software to use them. When we worked on this project, we were really thinking about Tempt specifically. So his style and his love of letter forms. Usually you think of software as being created for a lot of people, but we were really thinking about him and trying, really studying the way he drew and trying to build things for him to draw. So here he is using our system. In order to draw, it's a lot like Illustrator. So if you are familiar with Illustrator, you use a pen tool to make paths. And so here, if you look long enough at the screen, it's like clicking the pen tool. So from those those moments you can create lines, and from the lines you can create letters. And once we had a system, so here he is kind of using our system. This is, the video is sped up a bit, but you can get a sense of what it feels like. This is sped up quite a lot, but he's, you know, methodically placing points and fixing them and getting the angles right. And this is pretty much what it looks like. And then once he had a system for drawing and styling, we were thinking, what is the next step? And the next step was to actually go outside and project his drawings live. So we developed a technology called GML, Graffiti Markup Language, where we communicated the graffiti across.
I said sound.
So we developed a technology called Graffiti Markup Language, which allowed us to communicate graffiti across the internet. And so he would be in the hospital room drawing, and we could project his drawings live and then stream it back into the hospital. And it was really beautiful, like this kind of experience, because it became almost like a party where his family and his friends came out, and we were, you know, we don't have permission from anybody. We just try to find a quiet alley to set up our generator and project his drawings on the building. And he said, you know, that's the first time I've drawn anything in years. It feels like taking a breath after being held underwater for 5 minutes. He made really complex drawings. He's been making very complex drawings that I can't even imagine making with my hand. And every time he makes his drawings, the data gets saved, and so we're able to take his drawings wherever we can. This is our dream. If anybody has a lot of money, this is what we're doing. So here's actually, okay, this is actually taking the data that he drew with his eye and then putting it into a robot arm, and then actually like doing graffiti with a robot arm. I teach, and so we'll work with my students. This is at Parsons. Now I'm at School for Applied Computation, and we work on kind of hacking the iWriter and figuring out different versions of it, working with local school children, testing it, and developed a kind of 2.0 version of the iWriter. It works slightly differently. It's a different eye tracking technique. So it's not something that you wear, it's something that you have native screen, but it's pretty accurate and been interesting to kind of develop this like super cheap, you know, how can we take some kind of $30 webcam and, you know, open source software, open source hardware, and develop tools. Once we had a kind of system for temp, we went out and tested with him, and here he was joking with us with the new system. This is my favorite picture of the iWriter. This is the family that invited us, the couple. Their son was hanging out with us. He built his own version of the iWriter out of toys, and he was hanging out with us during the weekend, just sort of walking around with sort of homemade version of the iWriter. And to me, it just suggests the power of art, which is, you know, obviously to inspire the next generation, but also just this thing that, I guess maybe the power of individuals, that there are things in the world that governments are not going to solve and companies are not going to solve, but individuals, and especially individuals, working together can solve it.
Tactile navigation tools is doing some interesting things. Can you share with the audience some of the stuff you guys are working on?
Sure. So we're developing a few products. The most technological is something that we're calling the Iron Man, which is a wearable that has two parts. Another part that contains a set of various sensors, and a part that has it's the tactile part. So it has right now it's the little motors that you would have in your cell phone to get a vibration, and an array of those in order to paint essentially a picture of the environment on your torso, so that you can feel what's out there in front of you and what could be an obstacle being able to walk around or walk out
So, the Ironman that Todd's talking about, it basically resembles a vest that the wearer can put on, and then the sensors are spread throughout the torso. One question that I do have, and I'm not going to let you go that easily off, I noticed that in the development of the Ironman, you have low weights, high weights, different points depending on the object. Do the sensors know the size of the object that's in front of you and the depth of the object, or is it all, there is an object and that's just it?
No, it's the form. So it's where, it's the approximate size. It's not incredibly detailed, but certainly the approximate size, height, and the depth, which is the most important one. Which is important.
And now, relating it to New York City, I don't think anybody has walked down the street and seen a clean sidewalk. No mailboxes, no parking meters, no individuals. In terms of a space like this, an urban environment which has so much on the city streets, where would you say you are in terms of having a visually impaired individual navigate down the street independently without a cane, and where would you like the technology to go? Or ideally, where would you want it to go? If basically resources were not questioned.
Well, certainly, yes, we would like it to go to the place where a visually impaired individual could walk down the street without a cane and feel confident and safe that way. Now, in terms of the clutter of an environment, whether it be a lot of people or object or take space, we're using the software to define various modes of detection, so that if it's a very cluttered space, really what you want is you want to you need to know the path that you need to take. Whereas if it's a large environment, then you might care about more what's around you and not stuff.
Now, in addition to Ironman, your company has also developed a new type of walking cane. Right? Can you describe that?
Yeah, so we're working on a new type of white cane that's actually a combination of the traditional white cane that you've seen, and then now I can't remember the name, but it's a device that it's a large square that's a bit wider than the person and then it's tall, and it has wheels, and then you push it. And that's actually less common. But we wanted something that had some of the advantages of both of those, because, for example, using a weight cane, it will result in injury to your wrist because of many motions that you have to get into. And so there are a lot of injuries associated with that. And also it just misses things. If you're tapping, you actually miss something that's right in front of you. Really, the correct procedure is supposed to be to tap where your foot will fall. But often that's not done, and then you miss things. And so what we're developing is a cane that is rolled in front of you, but it doesn't have the frame. So it's a stick, right? It's the stick that you'd expect from a cane. But then at the end, there are rollers so that you can push it. You don't have to make the swinging motion, but you're also not going to miss anything in front of your feet, because that's where the rollers are. You feel it as it dips or bumps and cracks or so on. Which is a very, very early prototype that actually tested with
Can I just ask you to use the microphone?
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't realize that was being heard. We actually tested a very early prototype with that with an acquaintance who is an orientation and mobility specialist, which is someone who helps train visually impaired individuals in the use of the white and he is also visually impaired. So, and while using the device, he had he walked around the block. He did fine, and then we came back using the cane, and I had to catch him because he almost went off at the edge of the sidewalk with the cane. But he didn't. But everybody saw that we were very excited about realizing that.
Neil, so you're sitting among some pretty healthy inventors and technologists, I would say, but you are also in a unique position. I mean, you work for one of the largest corporations in the world that has a tremendous amount of resources. So can you talk to us a little bit about what you envision AT&T doing and how they're going to be leveraging technology to make the world more accessible?
Sure, that's great. Yeah, we are a really big company. We employ 254,000 people. We're the largest privatized, unionized workforce in America. We're also the largest capital investor in America. We invest about $21 billion a year in infrastructure. And so we have a lot at stake in our economy, and particularly what's going on with mobility in the past few years. Let's not forget, AT&T brought the iPhone to market. We walked through a wall of fire to get that product on the market, and we did. So we're very committed to innovation and to connectivity. Obviously, we have a long history, as well as finding accessibility for people with disabilities going back many, many decades. A lot of technologies now that are antique and being supplanted by smartphones and tablets. And so in New York, in my role as the Public Affairs Executive Director, one of my responsibilities is to really tell that story. And I forget, I think, Marvin, you were saying about language, vocabulary. I forget what you said earlier, talking about language and vocabulary. But we try to tell a story in New York about mobility, about innovation, and what we try to tell the story around is how the investment that we have made as individuals in smartphones and tablets, and the investment that we as a company have made in these networks to support and connect those devices is underutilized for human good instead of community purpose. And that we need to do more to connect like transit smartphones. So we have this collaboration with the MTA around creating smartphone apps and connectivity. We were the first company to invest in the underground wireless. Some of you enjoy the subway. We capitalized transit wireless and making that possible. Either carriers eventually jump on board. We have an initiative with the New York City Department of Transportation to support Vision Zero, how we can utilize phones to help drivers be aware of cyclists and pedestrians and help pedestrians rise off the phone across the street. And all of these are bridging innovations. I think there's probably more sophisticated futurists on this panel than I am thinking about the future of mobility and how this type of functionality can be safe and alert, how to reduce preventable death and injury through accessibility and access and quality. How technologies will enable that in the future, and I think we can all see that coming in the market and yield those. What we're interested in is how do we do it next week? How can we use the network and the smartphones and the tablets now to help people with disabilities or help pedestrians and cyclists or commuters and the transit system function better now, so that when these enormous innovations and creations come online, that you've got a public who's ready to use them, that will adopt them. You've got developers and app makers who are already creating those solutions. So that's what we've done in New York. And this year, to mark the 25th anniversary of the ADA, we partnered with Anita and Luke and the Ability Lab here at NYU to create something called Connectability. It's a global design competition, just like all these other ones I've discussed. We have submissions from 15 countries, 63 of them. Go on the website, if you Google the words AT&T Connectability, you can see all of them. I would say there's some amazing innovations, but there's also a lot of low-hanging fruit. And that's what we're really out there looking for right now, is trying to find the simple solutions that make these connections between your phone and your network and your safety and your well-being and your access possible now. So the deadline passed on June 24th. We're announcing our winners on Sunday, July 26th, which is the actual day of the Americans with Disabilities Act being signed by George H.W. promotion. We're actually having an event at Federal Hall on Wall Street, which is a very appropriate location. So there's a lot of symbolism around independence and free expression and unity. And that's what this is all about. So for AT&T, we do this not just because it's enlightened self-interest, because we do want more people to use devices in the network. That's all true, but it's also, we're a big company with employees in every community in the nation, with many thousands of people with disabilities who work at every level in our company, or caregivers to people who live with disabilities. So this is a personal mission too. And there's a lot that we're not doing to encourage universal design, to encourage access, to leverage these investments that we've made in the companies, to leverage the network, to make accessibility possible. So everybody can be a part of the mobility and digital revolution. And this isn't just, it's about jobs, the economy, it's about expression, the arts, just being able to do what everybody else can do. And so we're committed to that and always have been. And in partnership with NYU, we're really eager to see a lot of terrific startups take off and bring some amazing apps to market now, today. You will get in the Android store, and you can get in the Apple store, and use them on your devices now. And someday there'll be something better, I'm sure, but we need something next week. And that's what we're trying to do with all these contests.
Thank you, Neil. Sure. Holly, that's a great segue to you. Speaking of being able to do everything that you can, your work at Medical Center at NYU is revolved around teaching people how to use assistive technology.
Correct.
So, can you describe a little bit about how you go about your job, number one, and then was it something in your job that led you to found DIY ability, or was it just something that you wanted to do in addition to what you were doing at the Medical Center?
Sure. So I probably should have mentioned this in my introduction, but I'm also an occupational, well, I am an occupational therapist that specializes in assistive technology. These things I think about after the fact, so yeah. I should have said that before. So when I was always into tech. I was my whole life, and when I was going to OT school, I went to University of Buffalo. University of Buffalo did at the time, they still do, they did a lot with technology, but back then, what we were using for people was key guards and mice you could move with your feet. This was 18, 20 years ago. So when I came to New York, to NYU, there was really unmet need in terms of the technology. So I started utilizing technology in my practice, which ended up blossoming into the program that we have now. So I see adults and children of varying disabilities. It could be anything ranging from ALS, as we were talking about with the iWriter, somebody with cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, down to somebody with carpal tunnel. And it can be anything from that. They can't control their lights, they can't do their TV remote, they can't access a computer, they can't move a mouse. And looking from that OT perspective, how can we facilitate their level of independence through the use of technology? And keeping in mind that not every solution is a high-tech solution. Sometimes low-tech meets the need. So we're looking at the low-tech from the high-tech, and how are we facilitating independence with this individual? And it doesn't matter if all they want to do is change the TV channel, you should be able to change your own TV channel. You should be able to turn the light on and off. And some folks, when I bring these things up to them, they don't think that was an option. Or, you know, they'll make a comment like, well, it's exercise for me to turn the light on. It's not exercise if it takes you a half an hour and you might fall getting there. How can we make you independent? How can we make you more successful? How can we make your quality of life better? So looking from that OT perspective, how are we facilitating independence to meet the goals of the individual? With that said, there's mainstream technology that we use to facilitate the independence. There's dedicated technology for people with disabilities, but even both of those do not meet the needs. Years ago, about 10 years ago, I took some courses here at NYU in the Interactive Telecommunications program where I met John Schimmel, who was also a student in ITP at the time. And through that, he became an adjunct professor at ITP, and he was teaching a class called Design for One. And in the idea for the Design for One class is very similar to what you were doing with the iWriter, where you were designing technology for the needs of one individual. What's currently made for dedicated or mainstream technologies is not meeting the needs, so how can we facilitate development? How can we create something to meet the needs of the individual? And we had folks that I would work with at the medical center and students in John's class, and we would come up with projects. And through that collaboration is really where DIY eventually came out of. This idea of how can we educate people about technology? Because even through my work at NYU, people don't realize how the accessibility options in the computer, that might be the fix. They don't even know that exists. They're not aware of what's available. They're not aware of how we can do things on a lower cost. Not everything has to be very expensive to facilitate independence. So through our collaboration, we created DIY, where we educate professionals, practitioners, individuals with disabilities on what is in the environment, what can they do themselves, how can they make their own technology. We are approved providers of continuing education credits for occupational therapists. So we hold workshops for individuals in healthcare because honestly, a lot of folks in my field aren't doing technology. So how can we help them become more educated in their practice? And then through that, we've had individuals come through where we've also continued that design for one idea. And having them be the participant in creating their technology and creating their solution and owning the process. That's what I got.
I find it interesting because what you're doing with DIY, it seems very straightforward and very simple idea, and the impact is so tremendous. Because you're giving an individual the opportunity to create something themselves.
Correct.
And in my experience, there's something to be said in terms of ownership when you can do something on your own and you know that you've done it without any assistance. You feel a sense of pride and you feel a sense of, okay, I've accomplished something, and everyone's entitled to that. I'm going to transition over to Colin because I have a little bit of a beef with Colin. Colin, would I be correct in saying that your company was behind the information kiosks in the MTA?
Definitely it's a part of one of our projects.
What happened to the accessibility there, buddy?
So we have some interesting accessibility options there. So we're given a format by the MTA and asked to work within the bounds of a 47-inch touchscreen and to design a system that would really satisfy the needs of the ridership to find their way around the city. So we definitely took accessibility into consideration and have a lot of thoughts behind our design. So it's a universally accessible design with all touch points below 42 inches. So we've implemented a single-click navigation. So the MTA's original design, you had to type in your start location and then type in your destination location. That would result in sometimes upwards of 80 clicks to find out where you're going. So we brought that down to a single click. And there's some really interesting navigational elements that have worked in there. We're testing things like a compass rose versus a drag screen approach. Dragging the screen has really created this opportunity to create a single way of navigating rather than two modes of navigating, one for people at a certain height and one for another for people at a different height. It just allows people to pull the screen down with a single click or single touch, click on their destination and automatically map their route. We've also integrated some Byzantine MTA feeds to get at special feeds, and we had Victor over at our office the other day taking a look at some of these features where we're bringing forward the escalator and elevator outages so that people can find out where there are accessible routes. But it's a project under development, so I'd love to hear what your accessibility needs are. Because we take it very seriously, and we're always thinking about how we can make a single touchscreen more accessible.
And I'm being hard on Colin on it intentionally, but I fully understand the confines with WIMAGE. You have to work when you're working with a municipal organization like the MTA. Marvin, you are in a distinctly unique position compared to the rest of the panelists. You work with United Cerebral Palsy, and you are their Director of Assistive Technology. So my question to you is, over the course of the time you spent with UCP, where did the technology start, where is it now, and what is it lacking that you feel is addressable with the current technology landscape?
Okay, so first of all, I think I missed remark when I did my intro. I failed to go in depth about my department and what we do, so I'll just take a quick minute talk about that. We are a federally funded department through the trade grant. We run 2 technology centers. It's called TechWorks. We have 4 lending libraries. What we do in our TechWorks centers is we have a wide variety of devices on display. For demo, we have tons of individuals coming in for one-on-one or group trainings. We have a lot of universities who come for different trainings on whether it be an iPad training or just a general overview of what is assistive technology. So we are mandated to provide those services to our grant. Another thing that we provide is we provide a lot of durable medical equipment, and we provide this for free. So if anyone living in the 5 boroughs need a wheelchair or Hoyer lift or prone standard, gait trainer, you name it. We service from, we like to say from 0 to 100, so all ages. If we have it, we would provide it, we would drop it off to your place of work, your home, or school, and this is all done free of cost. We get a lot of donations throughout the city, people donating items to us, so we have a lot of items to in turn donate. So that is just a little bit about what we do. We provide a lot of free trainings. We go to a lot of universities doing trainings for them on assistive technology, because what we see is a lot of people are, they're in school, they're doing the masters, but they've never gotten a chance to actually touch or use some of the devices that they're learning about. So we provide that opportunity. We're like the try it before you buy it in terms of assistive technology, because nobody wants to go out and purchase Dynavox, for example, for $15,000 and not like it, or don't know how to use it, or it's too bulky, it's too heavy. So, they get a chance to contact us and come in, have a one-on-one training on how it's used, the different features of it, just to see if it's right for them. Everything we do is pretty much feature matching. And as I was saying, it's not necessarily the higher tech devices, the expensive $10,000 devices that's going to do the trick. It could be something as simple as a pen symbol, somebody holding up something saying, they want the restroom, or they want a glass of water. So that's what we do. Somebody comes in, we start with the low tech, working our way up to the high tech. And that's just a brief description of my TechWorks centers. We also run 4 lending libraries, and within the lending libraries, we have different educational books, DVDs, some trial softwares, and a lot of adapted toys and sensory items. So we have individuals who call up and they say, can I check out your lending library up in the Bronx or in Manhattan? And they would just come and take a look around, and if they see a few books that they like, or a few Switch adapted toys or sensory item, then they could take it free of cost for 60 days. And all we would require is a point of contact. So phone number, email address, physical address, you name it. So that's pretty much my department in a nutshell and the services that we provide. Now, to the question.
In terms of your work, when you first started working with UCP, where was the technology providing individuals the opportunity to be more independent? Where is it now, and where would you like it to go?
So, unlike most people at UCP, I've just been at UCP for 5 years this year. We have a lot of people who've been with the department for 30 years, 20 plus years. So since I've been there, where I've seen the technology going through leaps and bounds in just 5 years. Just pointing out, for example, with the iPad. When I just got there, we just acquired some iPads. We were learning how to use them and the different accessibility features that have been built into this device. And within the past 5 years, for everybody who has an iPad or an iPhone or any iOS device, you've seen that every year they come out with a different different version of the software. Now it's up to iOS 8. So we've seen that within this one device, it allows the population that we serve to better use that device. For example, when we just started out, we bought some iPads. We had to buy the stylus to use with the iPad because not everybody we serve can physically access the iPad. Now, with iOS, I think iOS 6 or 7, they came out with switch accessibility. So you could be able to sit here or in a chair and not touch the iPad, but you're using the iPad, you're navigating around the iPad. I could control the iPad just by moving my head to the left or just by clicking anywhere on the screen. So that one piece of technology has, increased and has made the lives better for some of the individuals that we serve. And also just in terms of, for example, anything on the computer. I've seen where technology on a whole has gone from the mainframe era, the PC era, now we're in the cloud era. So, for example, one such company, like Google Chrome, you could set up your settings, get your add-ons in the Google Chrome. You could have text-to-speech, you could have magnification set up, so you leave your home and now you're sitting in the office or any other computer, you log on to Google Chrome, you have all these features sitting at your desktop. So I see it improving drastically in that area. I actually had the chance of going to a ATIA conference in Orlando 2 years now, and I've been to a workshop that IBM did, and they're pretty much trying to do the same thing that Google Chrome is doing, but across all platforms. So with your smartphone, with your computers, anything, any mobile devices. So I see that's where it's going for the future. I think it's going to be in the cloud, as you say. But wherever we go, if it's in the cloud or out of space, we still have to consider low tech solutions for the people we serve. Because again, even if we're in the cloud or wherever we go, we're still going to have people who prefer, or it's just better for them to use a simple text symbol saying, "Juice, please," "No, please."
Thank you, Margaret. It's interesting. Margaret's comment reminded me of another quote that I have here. And I swear to God, this wasn't planned. I'm just really happy that he said this. If anybody reads the New York Times, one of the writers there is Thomas Friedman, who wrote a book called The World is Flat. And when he was asked about the book, he said when he sat down to write the book, Twitter was still a sound, the cloud was still in the sky, 4G was a parking place, LinkedIn was a prison, applications were what you sent to college, and Skype was a typo. That's technology in 10 years. My last question for the panel, and then we open it up for Q&A. It's a little bit of a brain teaser. It's been 25 years since the ADA was passed. This quote summarizes the last 10 years of technology and the leaps and bounds that it's made. There's a fundamental disconnect between social and vocational needs of the disability community and the medical needs of the disability community, one of which insurance will cover, the other which it will not. For inventors such as yourself, you are basically pioneering a new and interesting field. Individuals that feel like this is going to give them the full participation that they rightly deserve, what can they do in order to get this stuff, and how can we help mitigate the costs? Whether it's using a 3D printer to print out parts of the iWriter, or advertising revenue, which Colin is very humble. He didn't mention that Link NYC is going to make the city upwards of $500 million in advertising revenue. But what is out there that can mitigate these costs so that even if insurance says no, individuals are still able to make use of this technology? And the question is open to the entire panel.
Just to jump in, one thing that is out there is that some of the services that we provide in our tech centers, whereby we provide the opportunity for individuals to try out these and some of these new technology. Sometimes we reach out to developers or various companies, and they send us demos, an item to display in our tech center. Because if we could prove that over the course of a month, we're going to have at least 20 people or 30 people come in and test drive this item, then it's publicity for their company, and they're getting their product out there. So that is some of what we do. We get these devices from these companies and we have them in our tech centers. So if you're not able to go out and purchase this new device for $5,000, or you're going through hoops with insurance companies, then feel free to contact us and come in if we have it and take you for a test drive. and we have individuals who can show you how to use it. So in the interim, while you're trying to get this device, while you're trying to procure this device, hey, you could come to the tech center and try it out for free. With some items, especially if it's like durable medical equipment program, let's say a specialized chair, we do provide loans. We provide them on loan for 60 days. So if it's a more expensive device, we might shorten the loan period to, let's say, 10 days or a week. And with some of our, top-end devices, we would just loan to trusted professionals in the field. So that type of opportunity is out there for individuals who want to have access to these devices, even though they're not sure if it's going to be funded or they don't have the ready money to purchase this expensive piece of equipment.
I personally think that, to answer your question, is very challenging. I think that there's a lot of things that aren't paid for that are quality of life issues. The computer is a great equalizer, right? You can use a computer, you can program, you can get a vocation, you can do all of these things. New York State does have the Access program, which is Access VR, which their goal is to help. Their goal is to help folks return to work or get a vocation after a long-standing disability or newly acquired disability. Working even within that system can take years for the individual to get the equipment that they need, to get the training that they need. And as the individual, it's very discouraging. I've seen that happen to a lot of folks, but I also think that even getting like an adaptive TV remote can't get paid for. And that's not going to really help. That's going to help quality of life, but there is no vocational end to that. There is no medical need for that. Getting somebody an adaptive light switch, you can't get paid for. And I've had people say, well, it's only $40. For somebody who is not working, that's on disability, $40 is a lot of money. I've certainly gotten some private grants for folks to pay to get their equipment paid for, because, and I've had an easier time getting equipment paid for than I've even had just getting a computer paid for. So I might be able to adapt the computer, and I can get the adaptive mouse, and I can get the adaptive keyboard from private grant funding, but I can't get a laptop. So here I am, we figured out the solution, and we don't have a system to put the solution on. So I've certainly gotten creative with funding in a lot of ways. Definitely most of that is going to private grant foundations throughout the country. I've gotten things from the Crime Victims Association, I've gotten things from different organizations such as the MDA Association, the MS Association, but as time goes on, the amount of money you can get from these folks is getting less and less. So as to how to get the funding, I honestly don't have a great answer, but I think that it is an enormous issue, because the only thing I can get insurance paid for is a dedicated communication device. So I can get an insurance company to cover a $15,000 communication device that is bulky and heavy and hard to carry, but I can't get them to pay for an iPad that's $399 that has the app that they need for communication that they can access just as easily. So it's one very big issue that I do struggle with every day, and through creativity we can get things paid for, but it's a struggle for most people that I work with. So I don't have a great answer, but that's my answer.
I'll try to answer it in a very simple way. Let's stop. No, and this may be simplistic because I'm not from the field. I don't have a clinical background, and so I can look at this and sort of those color classes. I'd say one approach is doing a lot of what Anita and Luke are doing with the Ability Lab, which is interdisciplinary collaboration. Is critical. And so many of our government agencies and decision makers, both in the government and the private sector, are siloed from each other, so people don't know what they don't know. So, my guess is that a lot of folks in the FDA who determine eligibility rules for Medicare probably are aware of the scalability and the innovation that's happening, particularly with software that addresses communicative and cognitive issues, and how the market is now driving that innovation. So one of the things that we've learned on this connectability competition is we've met all these wonderful people all over the country. And Sean is here, she's one of them, she's in New York, she's one of our exemplars. And I want to just give a shout out to Ellen Goldstein back here. So I'm going to make my way around the answers. But so Alan and Anita and Luke inspired AT&T with a very simple premise, which is this word exemplar, right? And this is a research practice that we adopted with our competition, which is you can't design and build and test technology for people with disabilities without people with disabilities there creating the ideas and testing and using it themselves. And so we created this model where our developers competing in the competition have to, if you want to win, compete, work with people with disabilities to refine and design the solutions. And that's what we're rewarding success on the critical aspects of it. It's client focused. And our developers have done that. And so shout out to Alan for that word. And using the word language, exemplar, exemplifying excellence and representing the community. What we've discovered is a couple of interesting folks, exemplars across the country, 4 in New York, and a bunch in California, some in Colorado as well, is how families confronted with this cost, this enormous cost, have hacked and used apps that were not designed for people with disabilities to address needs, particularly in the communicative and cognitive space. And one of the solutions we love from Gus, our exemplar from Starry Queens, who works at Brood and Assistive Tech Lab, was he used a fashion app. He's blind, and he uses a fashion app to tell him if his socks match color. Right? And so it wasn't designed for him, but it was a brilliant hack, and the app was free. And so there's a lot of examples of this that we have covered on the road. Right on, there it is. That we uncovered on the road, and families sort of confronted with this. You know, I just spent $700 on this iPad, and it's connected to this LTE network, and I can't get Medicare to pay for it, but I've got all these amazing apps that were designed for me that I'm using to solve problems in my everyday life. The market is getting ahead of the decision makers and funders. This will force their hand. There'll be a natural attrition of the decision makers in the federal bureaucracy. Will just age out. And it'll be replaced by people who've grown up in the mobility and digital revolution, and they'll understand intuitively how to apply those technologies to address people's everyday needs. It may take a decade, it's probably going to take a few years. And the funding streams will change because it makes sense for the taxpayers to be able to leverage our investment in our network and to leverage your investment in your phone and tablet. If you can acquire technology that would cost tens of thousands of dollars, no matter question, at $25. And that's part of the thesis of what we're trying to prove out with connectivity. You know, there's only a few industries in the world that are as well capitalized as telecommunications, defense, energy. And when you've got companies like Google, AT&T, Facebook investing billions and billions of dollars every year in what they do, that is a stable base for development. We shouldn't be developing medical devices on software that's independent of this entire telecom and digital and mobility space, because you've got the full force and the talent and the money and the capital flowing into that. That innovation needs to come over here. So we need to build on Android and iOS. We need to build to use our network and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth beacon to leverage what control groups doing, incredible innovators, and to bring that talent and innovation to bear to help people with disabilities today and now, because it's a sustainable base, and it's a vibrant and robust ecosystem that's enormously supported. And so how you can change minds among decision makers is more of this interdisciplinary collaboration. You need engineers working with people with disabilities. One of the things we discovered, particularly at MIT, we've done these workshops and hackathons across the country, is gamers are really good at this, right? When they understand need expressed directly by people with disabilities, they have this intuitive response and know how to create and develop solutions instantly. And so you've got centers of excellence in gaming in Utah, here at NYU, at MIT, Carnegie Mellon. You've also got incredible OT departments and the work that's being done with building that. It's just they don't talk to each other. And so they need to talk to each other and start to share talent and information, because they don't know what they don't know on each side. And so what Luke brought up here is this is the connectability website. There's 63 submissions. Each one of these are being evaluated right now by our judges, which include Sean, exemplars. Each of them has a video that demonstrates what it is. Some of them are good, some of them are okay, some of them are amazing. And so we're going to be announcing the winners on July 26th. And the idea is that these solutions are available immediately, and we want to continue doing this. Our company wants to continue doing these competitions, but particularly around the disability space, because we do believe that there's a story to be told inside the Beltway to the FDA about how they're rewarding innovation or not rewarding innovation, and how the taxpayers, particularly as our population is aging, and all of this is universally designed and is applicable to people who are aging. So much of these solutions, how we need this innovation and streamlining and refinement now in the marketplace. And we think ultimately the customers are going to drive it. They're going to drive the transformation, because if they're hacking solutions today, we've got people who are developing today these amazing solutions that can be bought for $25. That's going to make a difference. That's an incredible story.
You also mentioned that there's
Oh yeah, you could go to our website and you can vote for your favorite app, and it's a $2,500 prize to the developers.
25 how much?
$2,500
No.
for public voting.
Oh, for
For public
okay.
voting, there's $100,000 in prizes, but the reward for public voting is $2,500.
So, sorry, how do we get these, you talked about this interdisciplinary, but how do we get these people to talk to each other? What needs to happen, what kind of parties do we need?
Well, that's a great question. I did a roadshow across the country, several Duke in San Francisco, Berkeley, MIT, where we created these collaboration sessions. So we've got exemplars like Sean, and both three colleagues here in New York volunteered to give feedback directly to developers. We set up Skype sessions for developers around the world who could Skype in and present their solutions directly to the exemplars, get feedback, and believe it or not, they made changes and innovations to the solutions that they presented to the exemplars based on feedback from Gus and from Sean and Jason and this group at Berkeley, this group at MIT. We had developers from all over the world, India, Austria, Skyping, Google Hangouts, presenting their solutions, giving feedback. That's a very simple way to do it, and it's also a requirement for our competition. If you want to compete, you have to demonstrate that a person's disability helped you create the feedback, design, task, and solution. And that's a core principle at AT&T, and what we do, I think, on our legacy, and so we do the disabilities corporate office of technology, assistive technology. But for this competition, the hackathon, the one that we staged here at the Magnet Center, provided those opportunities. But I think at more sort of a policy and research level, you need more ability labs. You need the gamers talking to the occupational therapists, and you need course curriculum that forces them to work together. And so we're just sort of batting this around with some of our academic partners. One of them is Rehabilitative Engineering and Assistive Technology Society of North America, and how we can seed course syllabus that demands that kind of collaboration in all the centers for excellence around the country to do this competition and ensure that the coursework produces submissions that can be judged, but also demands that collaboration and interdisciplinary collaboration.
We're not in Q&A mode yet, but
Sean, for you, we're in Q&A mode.
Okay, but I also think to add to that, as much as we like to say it's for the people, by the people, I do think one of the things that I'm learning from this, first of all, I think the next time that we ever do this connectability challenge, I think it should be required to have collaboration sessions to even submit. Because even beyond those that did make changes, there are so many things that when we watch these videos, like for Gus, at least 4 of the people that designed for the blind, right, did not have anything audio described from him. So he's watching this presentation, and all he can hear is music, nothing.
Like, duh.
Right. So these are the things that obviously they put a lot of thought and time into these submissions, and yet it's still missing the mark with all their great intentions. So I want to give praise to all the people in this panel right now for really each one of you. It's very clear that you work with the communities that you are impacting or the individuals you're impacting. So I think that's a beautiful thing. But to even expand on what you're saying, I think that the government has to get involved with this too, because one of the beautiful apps that we love the most, we were having most like emotional reaction to is not implemented because they need approval from the MTA. It's actually, I don't know how much we're allowed to talk about this, but there was one particular app that was designed to make Stress-a-Ride or Access-a-Ride much less stressful, right? Which is a big bonding. Anyone that knows or is a person with a disability knows that the biggest bonding thing that I think a lot of New Yorkers with disabilities have across disabilities is some of the struggles with transportation and especially Access-a-Ride. And so this woman has a wonderful idea about an app that can help the user understand how late is their transportation going to be, you know, how can they contact their driver, et cetera, but she cannot have any of that information without approval from the MTA. Or without, you know, so I think there needs to be also, beyond just what ability labs there are and what companies get involved, but also just that bigger support, and that was what the ADA was all about.
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, did you hear
I'll be happy to comment on that.
Well, Victor, no, but in his defense, he's incredible. I mean, but Victor is spearheading a lot of what we're talking about. So this is not to say that they're not doing this, but we need to do more of it and have these conversations. So sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
But I wanted to add that I think it goes into sort of there's a bigger umbrella that needs to do this.
I think this is not the only area by any stretch of the imagination, but this is one of the biggest areas where technology is outpacing the legislation. Okay? And it's great that it happened, and it's been 25 years since it's happened. But just like the way we're doing business differently, we're learning differently, education is evolving, the legislation needs to evolve. And I agree with Neil that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time and having the right people in place to make it happen. But I welcome other questions. Do we have other questions from the audience? Yes, sir.
Okay, just personally, I have cognitive disability. I just need to frame a couple of things. There's a lot of things that have come out of this discussion around my mind that I need to get through and parse. So please be patient. My name is Andrew Tack. I'm an ITP graduate. I'm also a brain cancer survivor. I have worked with Holly Cohen. I can confirm her OT specialty. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm also here to represent my son, Aiden. He's 7 years old. He has a cognitive disability. My son was born with 47 chromosomes. He has 3 copies of the 21st chromosome, and he has a condition called Down syndrome. My son attended his local zone public school, PS3, for a number of years, and did quite well with a dual program of special education and also time in a typical classroom at a lower grade level. And he was the first child with Down syndrome to attend PS3 in the history of that school. I'm very proud of my son and all of the hard work that he has done. My son was told this year he has to leave that school because the principal told us that the faculty at the school cannot operate the assistive communications device that my son needs for class participation. And he was told that he must go to elsewhere, and so he's going to another school. He has a welcoming staff there. It's all going to be okay. You know, my wife and I work very hard to talk to people and get the right people in place. And just the teachers weren't trained to use the device. You know, that's a big issue. You know, my son, he's speech delayed, but my son puts in the work. He's doing the work. He's a hard-working kid. He loves school. He's great with all of his student friends there. He's he's the star there. He's like a superstar. And the principal says, go away, because we don't have anybody who can operate an iPad with an app on it. I mean, that's ridiculous. Somebody's got to come here and do some training and just take care of that. And now just quickly, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional here, but I'm going to calm down. All right, listen, Marvin, I got a question for you. I don't know what your organization is. Could you clarify that for me? What do the 3 letters stand for? And what were the 3 letters? Thank you.
It was TRAID, and that is TRAID. It's technology-related assistance for individuals with disability. Okay. So my department is called TechWorks. CatWorks, but the grant that funds us is called TRADE.
I think you meant UCP, right? United Cerebral Palsy.
Is that correct?
UCP,
I think
yes.
that's what.
Yes.
So would my son, who has a disability other than cerebral palsy, have access to a program like you were describing, that you could test out communication devices, that type of thing?
Yes, contrary to what people think, we do service all disabilities. We just got the name United Cerebral Palsy when we were founded because some of the founding fathers had kids with cerebral palsy. But we service individuals of all ages and all disabilities. So he could access the tech center, and we could also provide trainings for the school, teachers at school, on the iPads, or if they're using Dynavox or other devices.
Yes. And my son has used both the iPad and Dynavox as well. And the other thing is there should be training that gets the parents involved so that I can continue the flow of communication methods at home. And we need to have communication between teachers and parents as part of the IEP that these students are given and evaluated for every year of their education. Okay, I think I've said enough. Thank you very much. Anyone has any questions for me later, I'll be available. By the way, I did enter this competition, so keep an eye out.
Quick thing, in terms of the training for the families, we do have a department at UCP, it's called Family Connect, and we do provide monthly workshops. Every month we have, let's say 4 or 5 or 3 different workshops on different topics, and they are in each borough. Sometimes we do video conferencing, so if the speaker is actually in Manhattan, we could broadcast to another borough via video conferencing. And the topics, there's a wide variety of topics. It might be an iPad presentation, or how to make text symbols, for example, because the program that you actually use to make the symbols, like Board Maker, it's pretty expensive. It's like anywhere from $500 up. So not everybody's going to have access or the money to buy this software. So that's why we provide such trainings where they could come in, parents, professionals, anyone could come in, sit through his workshops, learn how to make those symbol sets, and they actually get to print them, make them, and they take them home. So we can provide workshops that parents could take advantage of.
Thank you.
So it's Victor Calisi again, Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. I just want to say thank you to the panelists. We worked hard, the city, to bring panels together like this. So we drove this panel, and Anita helped us make it through. And I want to thank the panelists. And we worked with just about everybody here. We found a great partner in just about everyone that's up there. We want to continue to do that. Government is listening. We've talked to Neil before. Full disclosure, I'm a judge for connectability. I'm happy to be a judge. But Neil and I were talking about how we can download after all of this and find out how we can bring all these resources together. Some of the stuff that you put together is quite amazing. And the idea of wearable technologies, the same things that are on cars, that can allow a person with a visual disability to navigate the streets without any assistive devices is just incredible. I just, iWriter is something that's pretty awesome. Seeing all the graffiti in the 80s and 90s is pretty cool. That's something to write, and I'd like to see more of that. Colin, everything that you're doing, NYU, it's all good stuff. The government is listening. We have to find a better way to do things. We understand that this administration is driven. Mayor de Blasio is making more and more of a commitment to people with disabilities, and we're driving that. So thank you.
I think we have time for one more question. Give my money.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Everything each one of you said applies to my daughter, or has some relationship to it. She's 20 years old, and she has a developmental disability. And one of the issues that always comes up is that you said, she can do it herself. That's much more meaningful than having somebody help all the time. And one of the things was traveling by train, by subway, or by bus,
by bus, you know, I trained her so she feels more comfortable. But by train, it's so overwhelming and so difficult. So when we were talking about the Ironman, and we were talking about the MTA, I had this vision of, you know, her wearing a vest, instead of with her iPad like this, you know, and walking right off the train platform across the street. So I just had a vision, like, she can't tell her left from correct, especially when she can, right now. So when she gets to that point, you know, she freezes, and the last time I had to Google Earth where she is and tell her to turn around and go into the building and ask the direction. I mean, literally, so I could see where she was. So something like that, where she can walk down the street and, you know, something in her ear telling her, something in her body, you know, moving relative, you know, to where she is safely without bringing attention to herself. This is walking down the street in New York. Just blending in. I would wear this. It's sometimes very difficult. And also, she's very much interested in art, and that is fantastic. Same thing with paying for, you can get somebody to travel with her and pay a lot of money for that, but you can get an app without going to, you know, OTs and PTs that she really needs. So it's just good learning the funds to where she really wants to. Right now, we're actually doing self-direction, which is very helpful. And a lot more parents are going to ask for this kind of training. Thank you so much.
So in an effort to break down the silos and encourage the exchange of information, I'm going to ask our panelists to share some resources with you guys or some suggestions on what they turn to when they're trying to figure out some of this stuff. It can be a website, it can be a book, it can be a movie, just some homework for our audience so they can go back and actually start doing this research and facilitate an exchange of information. Zach, we'll start with you.
I have to look it up to make sure I have the right. Give me 1 second. So I actually just want to mention a researcher who came to participate with a school for poetic competition, and her name is Sarah Hendren. Yeah, and I just have to find the right way to say it. Abler. Oh, I don't know. Okay, she's awesome. She's awesome. She's awesome. You should, if you don't know her work, you should find out about her work. And I just wanted to plug, it's not out yet, but her talk at the IO Festival in Minneapolis, which just happened a couple weeks ago, was probably one of the most beautiful talks I've ever seen in my entire life. And so I just want to pre-publicize her talk. Her work is amazing. The work that she's doing with her students and the research, I think is super interesting. But this talk is phenomenal. And actually, as somebody who's interested and kind of on the outside of this assistive tech world, it really helped clarify so many things for me. So I just want to plug, I want to give you homework, in 2 weeks when the IO Festival starts to publish their talks, just keep your eyes out for that, because that talk is amazing.
Okay, well, I feel a little uncomfortable being so Tactile Navigation Tool centric, but I'm gonna say we have a website, tactilenavigation.com, that has tactilenavigation.tools.com. It has some useful information there. I also wanted to address a question earlier that had two parts, one about what people can do, which is really important to just ask, and also about insurance companies and what they pay for. We're trying to reject the notion that insurance companies shouldn't pay for these things. For example, they don't even pay for electing. So we've been talking with some folks who deal with reinsurers, which is exactly what it sounds like. To try to get insurance companies to pay for these types of devices. And in terms of what people can do, we are always looking for some adventurous, spirited, visually impaired folks who who would be willing to help us test and iterate and develop the technologies that we're working on. So if you or someone you know who might be interested in that, please track me down.
Just in terms of resources, there's two that come to mind. In terms of technology solutions and innovations, before the ARC, they have, if you just Google the ARC Tech Toolbox, there's a whole just suite of reviews of accessibility. The ARC, ARC, and it's the toolkit. And so if you Google those two sets, you'll get the top result, the ARC toolkit. There's another one, a group out of Houston that's affiliated with Rice University. It's called Bridging Apps, and it's people with disabilities review and evaluate accessibility software. So again, predominantly for people with cognitive and communicative disabilities, because software is pretty well suited for that. And they review and evaluate. I'm sure there are others, but these are the two that I know, and they're both very good in terms of the quality of the reviews and submissions, and provide people with disabilities who can provide a critical analysis of the software. So those are two really good resources.
I would say that I go to lots and lots of websites. I saw Anita pulled up RESNA, which is the Rehab Engineering Society of North America, which is OTs, PTs, engineers that are working with technology for folks with disabilities. They do a lot of webinars. They have an annual conference, have different literature that you can download for education. Of course, you can always look at the DIYability.org website. We do have information on there about different projects on doing some of your own hacks. We're always open to help with different projects, as well as we have project guides. And, you know, I'm at NYU, so if anybody wants to come in, I'm always happy to help somebody, you know, you just let me know. And we can help try and find a solution there in the clinic as well.
I just wanted to just to say a couple of words on the silos and the potential for collaboration. I think we're at this amazing point in history where with open source software, with the ability to push apps out and reach millions of people in moments, and with a really strong community that's really interested in addressing the needs of many different users, we are all here together. We're brought together by the Mayor's Office of Disabilities. We all have this relationship, and the potential for collaboration between the different groups is just incredibly high, and any one innovation that's made in one can benefit all others. So it's really an inspiring time to be in this business and to be thinking about solutions for people, and in our case, for cities. And so, you know, I would echo your sentiment that, you know, our door is always open. And you can find me at colin@controlgroup.com. But one of the books I've been reading recently, and I just think it's a very optimistic book about cities, in which we all really live in New York City. It's Smart Cities by Anthony Townsend, and it's a really decent survey of all the different things that are happening in cities and history with technology in cities.
I think my agency on a whole is a great resource. United Cerebral Palsy New York City's UCP of NYC.org, and also my department is actually a great resource. What I realize is not a lot of people know that we exist, or if we exist, they don't know what we do wholeheartedly. So, you know, I think TechWorks, yes. So, you know, just knowing some of the services that we provide, will be helpful to individuals. You know, the trainings that we provide, the opportunities to demo certain devices and certain equipment, and also the opportunity to have certain equipment on a loan. You know, I think that's a great resource as well. You know, we are happy to have now become a standing member on the Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities Sandy Recovery Task Force. So, you know, that's due to the work that we do with through medical equipment by providing tons of wheelchairs, walkers, canes, you name it, throughout New York City. So that's just a great opportunity for us. And feel free to contact us in terms of getting trainings. And again, another great department is the Family Connect department that we have within UCP, who provides these free trainings throughout the boroughs. We get different speakers from all over the state coming in to provide different workshops for us. And a lot of the times, you know, we have internal people like myself doing these workshops, you know, the iPad workshops, or another colleague of mine, Mirabeth, who does a lot of work with AAC devices. So, you know, I just think we are a great resource. And if you guys want to learn more about certain apps or certain devices, feel free to contact us. I actually don't have enough business cards to go around, and I left my brochures, but I could definitely give out my email address to anyone who needs it. And if you have any concerns or any needs that we spoke about today, feel free to contact me. Email is mpinock, which is PINNOCK, at UCP. Okay, so it's M for Marvin, PINNNOCK at UCPNYC.org.
This has been a tremendous experience for me. I hope you guys enjoy the panel. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. And if you're anything like me, you really don't want to leave air conditioning. What? No choice. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, guys.
Victor, for the record, I was talking about national government. You know, I vote
You should show your put that previous, the Office of Disabilities. I'm not sure. The previous one passed away. I think he was